Warriors through the ages, legends of fear and conquest. Blood drips from a curved blade onto frozen ground. The year is 1219, and Genghis Khan's cavalry thunders across the steppes of Central Asia. But the Mongols weren't the first to perfect the art of warfare, nor would they be the last. Throughout human history, certain warriors have risen above all others, their very names striking terror into the hearts of their enemies. The clash of steel, the thunder of hooves, the battle cries that echo through time. These are the sounds that heralded the arrival of history's most formidable fighting forces. From the snow-capped mountains of Macedonia to the scorching deserts of Arabia, their legends still whisper through the centuries. Picture yourself in ancient Sparta, where newborn boys were inspected for weakness, and those found wanting were left to die on Mount Taygetus. This wasn't cruelty for its own sake. It was the foundation of what would become the most feared infantry force in the ancient world. A Spartan warrior's shield, his hoplon, wasn't just for his own protection. It guarded the man to his left, making desertion not just cowardice but a death sentence for one's brothers in arms. Return with your shield or on it, Spartan mothers told their sons. There was no middle ground. But perhaps even the Spartans would have trembled at the sight of the Immortals, the elite Persian force of exactly 10,000 men. When one fell in battle or to sickness, another warrior would step forward to take his place, maintaining their mythical number. The Greeks claim their name came from this apparent immortality, though Persian texts suggest they were actually called the Companions. Their precision was legendary. So synchronized were their movements that ancient accounts describe them as a single organism of spears and shields. Yet neither Spartan nor Immortal could match the sheer territorial conquest of the Mongol warriors. Under Genghis Khan, they created the largest contiguous land empire in history, but their true terror lay in their military innovations. Every Mongol warrior maintained at least 3 horses, allowing them to cover vast distances at unprecedented speeds. Their compound bows, small yet devastatingly powerful, could pierce armor at 200 yards. But their most fearsome weapon? Information. The Mongols created the world's first military intelligence network, using a sophisticated relay system of riders to transmit battlefield information faster than any civilization before them. As we move forward in time, we encounter the Mamluk slave soldiers who became kings. Originally taken as children from the Caucasus region, they were molded into Egypt's warrior elite through a brutal training regimen that would break most modern special forces. Their mastery of mounted archery was so complete that they could hit targets while riding at full gallop, shooting arrows in any direction, even backwards. It was the Mamluks who finally halted the seemingly unstoppable Mongol advance at the Battle of Ayin Jalut in 1260. The samurai of feudal Japan present us with a different kind of warrior altogether. While their fighting prowess was legendary, it was their code of Bushido, the way of the warrior, that set them apart. This complex philosophy demanded absolute loyalty, fearlessness in the face of death, and a sense of honor so strict that the slightest insult could end in bloodshed. The samurai's katana wasn't just a weapon. It was considered the warrior's soul made manifest in steel, requiring ritual maintenance and respect. But perhaps the most terrifying warriors of all were the Norse Vikings. Popular culture has transformed them into cartoonish barbarians, but the reality was far more complex and frightening. These weren't just raiders. They were master navigators, skilled traders, and sophisticated military strategists. Their berserkers, warriors who fought in a trance-like fury, would work themselves into such a state of battle rage that they were said to be impervious to fire and iron. Modern historians suggest they may have used mushrooms with psychoactive properties to achieve this state, but their effectiveness was undeniable. The very sight of a berserker could break enemy lines before the battle even began. The Gurkhas of Nepal, though coming later in history, deserve their place among these legendary warriors. Their famous kukri knives have a notch near the hilt. Some say it's to catch enemy blood, preventing it from making the handle slippery. During World War II, a single Gurkha, Lakhiman Gurung, held off 200 Japanese soldiers single-handedly, despite losing an eye and his right hand to a grenade. He fired his rifle with his left hand until reinforcements arrived, killing 31 enemy soldiers. Yet perhaps the most ruthless warriors weren't those who fought with the greatest strength, but those who fought with the greatest cunning. The Hashashin, or assassins of medieval Persia, created such an effective system of political killing that their name became the very word we use for murder with premeditation. Their fortress at Alamut was said to contain gardens replicating paradise, used to convince their followers that death in service would lead to eternal reward. What makes these warriors stand out isn't just their kill counts or the territory they conquered. It's how they revolutionized warfare itself. The Spartans showed us the power of absolute discipline. The Mongols proved that information could be more powerful than any weapon. The Vikings demonstrated how terror itself could be a military strategy. Each group didn't just fight battles. They changed how humanity thought about warfare itself. As we look back through the blood-soaked pages of history, one truth becomes clear. The most ruthless warriors weren't necessarily those who killed the most, but those who changed the very nature of combat. Their innovations in strategy, technology, and psychological warfare continue to influence military thinking to this day. In the end, perhaps the most chilling aspect of these warriors isn't their brutality or their body count, but their efficiency, the cold, calculated way they transformed violence into an art form. Their legacy lives on not just in military academies and history books, but in the very fabric of human civilization, a reminder that the capacity for organized violence is as much a part of our heritage as art, music, or philosophy. The blade that dripped blood onto frozen ground in 1219 might be long rusted away, but the principles of warfare these ruthless warriors established continue to shape our world. In studying their methods, we don't just learn about military history. We learn about human nature itself in all its terrible efficiency.